Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And so, let me see, let's all stand and pay attention to the flag here. And Larry, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can we go ahead with the roll call?
Mr. Ricucci,
Here.
Mr. Brentmo,
Here.
Mr. Denayo,
Here.
Mr. Jennison,
Yes.
Mr. Gray,
Here.
Mr. Moss,
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here. Okay, next item on the agenda is our planning director with the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of updates for the commission. At its May 3rd meeting, the Board of Supervisors heard a presentation on the proposed redistricting that's a result of the 2010 census. Staff had prepared a variety of maps for the board to consider. The board made some recommendations on changes to those maps. Staff is currently making those changes, and staff will be making presentations to the MACs throughout the county. Staff will be making presentations to MACs throughout the county, as well as cities and special districts over the next 2 months. And the intent is to take any comments that are received on the proposed redistricting back to the board in early August for action, which is anticipated for September of this year. To update you, the Tahoe Paddle and Oar appeal, which was denied by your commission at the last meeting, has been appealed to the planning or to the Board of Supervisors. Staff will keep you updated as that appeal moves forward. And the Timberline project, which was approved by your commission at your last meeting, has been appealed to the Board of Supervisors. So we'll keep you updated on that appeal also. Lastly, for your June 9th meeting, we have 2 items currently scheduled. The Forest Hill Community Plan update. There are some amendments that are being proposed as a result of the litigation that has been ongoing with that project. Those will be presented to your commission. And we also have a revised Enclave at Granite Bay project, which was presented to the board and has been modified consistent with board direction. And that is scheduled for June 9th also. And that concludes staff's comments.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay, hearing none. At this point, I'm going to open it up for public comment on any item that's not on the agenda today. And so maybe if I could get an indication, are there many people that want to make a public comment today? Seeing no hands, then I guess we'll move on with the agenda. Okay, the first item on our agenda is a conditional use permit and variance for the North Star Mountain Lodge. And we have Melanie Jackson, who's going to make the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So the project applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit and a variance for the construction of a mountain lodge at the North Star Tahoe Resort. The project site is located within the Martis Valley area off of Highway 267. The specific project location will be mid-mountain on the North Star ski slope, approximately 500 feet from the north of to the north of Schaefer's Camp Restaurant. And just so that you're aware, the north arrow is actually it's pointing the wrong way. I apologize. This is actually south is actually up in this picture. So to the north, as you can see, the lodge is below Schaefer's Camp. The project site is zoned a combination of forest with a minimum building site designation of 160 acres and resort combining design scenic corridor and a planned residential development designation of 15 units per acre. The Mountain Lodge is proposed to be constructed at a size of approximately 17,687 square feet and will also include approximately 4,690 square feet of outdoor patio and decking area to be located on the west and south sides of the structure. The lodge will accommodate indoor seating for approximately 500 guests and outdoor seating for approximately 250 guests. The Mountain Lodge will also include a lounge, restrooms, retail, and guest services, and will be available for special events such as weddings and banquets. The project applicant is also requesting a variance to the minimum height limitation of 36 feet in order to allow for a maximum height of 49.5 feet. The request for an increase in height is in response to the need to address heavy snow loads in the area and also a desire to construct a facility that is LEED certified. And for your information, LEED is Leadership in Energy in Environmental Design and Environmental Design, excuse me. The project was taken before the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council on May 12th, 2011 as an action item. After a brief presentation, the council voted unanimously to support the project and recommend approval to the Placer County Planning Commission. The applicant has indicated that the existing guest services facilities on site have proven to be inadequate to serve the existing guests at the resort and is proposing to construct the lodge in order to provide mid-mountain guest services on a year-round basis. The lodge will be accessed via the Tahoe Zephyr lift, which you can't see in this picture, but it's basically behind this area. And because of this, no parking improvements will be required, and no guests will have vehicle access to the lodge. Staff is in support of the conditional use permit and variance, and we recommend approval to the Planning Commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I'd also like to turn it over to Michael Johnson at this time. He'd like to address a letter we received yesterday on the environmental document.
Thank you, Melanie. I believe a letter has been provided to each of the planning commissioners. Late yesterday afternoon, staff received a letter from Thomas Marone, who is a receiver for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. In the letter, Mr. Marone identifies various concerns with the proposed mitigated negative declaration that has been prepared for your consideration. And Mr. Marone states that he does not agree with some of those conclusions that are reached in the initial study. Mr. Marone does not agree that only 11 employees will be required. He believes that it's more likely 130 employees will be required. He's concerned with the greenhouse gas analysis that was provided in the report. He believes there will be impacts to affordable housing in the area, and that there's already an existing parking problem and inadequate parking is provided as a result of this current application. Staff has reviewed this letter and does not concur with any of the conclusions identified by Mr. Marone. First and foremost, as it relates to parking, the resort at North Star has more than adequate parking for its employees. In addition, North Star is currently working with county staff to prepare and develop a new expanded parking area specifically for its employees that will provide even more parking than they currently have. And that project is hoped to be under construction this summer and completed before the next winter season. As it relates to the number of employees, the 11 employees identified in the initial study is an average of the employees that will be there over the year. There may be increases or decreases from that, but based upon staff's review of the number of employees that currently work at the Mid-Mountain Lodge, this number is acceptable and consistent with those existing operations. And Mid-Mountain actually is a larger facility than the facility currently being proposed with this application. Lastly, the greenhouse gas analysis that is included in your initial study has been reviewed by the Placer County Air Pollution Control District. They are in support of the conclusions that are reached there. And so after reading the letter, staff could find no merit to any of the issues raised, and staff continues to support the mitigated negative declaration that has been presented to you for your consideration.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I have two. One, why is the staff recommending the variance in height?
There's a couple reasons why. Part of it is for the LEED certification. And in order to get the LEED certification, they need to provide passive solar heating And then also they need to provide natural light. And the other reason is,
No, well, before you go any further, I'm familiar with leads and adding extra height. Both of those things could be handled easily without the extra height, so I need a
well,
little more depth on that answer.
well, I think that the point would be that the extra height would allow more windows, and then passive solar heating would, I can't be completely accurate there because I'm not involved in the construction of it, but the other reasoning behind it is the expanse of the structure. My determination was based on, or the planning department's determination was based on, basically, the larger the structure is, the higher the peak of the roof needs to be, because they need to maintain a 312 slope, or 312 ratio for the slope of the roof in order to shed snow. And as it gets bigger, the height really needs to be larger so that it will slope appropriately, because otherwise you're going to have a roof that's basically flattening out with the expanse of the structure. So that's staff's reasoning.
Yeah, that's pretty weak. I happen to build houses in this kind of thing, and anyway, so that's pretty much the answer on that.
That's the answer.
Okay, thanks.
You had two? Two questions?
There's just two of them. I just asked, one on leads, one on height.
Oh, okay, good. Anybody else have a question? Yeah, I just, Melanie, just quickly, Schaefer Camp and this particular facility, are they owned by the same person? Or company or whatever?
I don't believe they are.
Okay.
No.
And so the intent is to have both facilities there that provide basically the same service?
Correct, and as I understand it, Schaefer's Camp is it's a private-run restaurant, and you can't utilize it unless you're a private member.
Oh, okay, that explains it, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's related to Schaefer's, or is it,
It's East-West Partners and Northwest Mountain Properties are the owners of Schaefer's Camp, and it is a private entity solely for residents of the North Star Mountain Properties. And so it is not open to the public, and the intent of this facility is to have it open to all members of the public.
Okay, thank you. Let me see, is the project manager or somebody, one of the owners here? Would you like to step forward?
Sure. My name's Tim Beck, and I'm oversee the planning for North Star. And I guess first of all, thank you to Chairman of the Board for hearing this project, and certainly thank you to the county staff because they've been very diligent in putting together the mitigated negative deck for this project, and we've worked hand in hand with them. We obviously concur with their conclusions today, and unless there's any specific questions, go from there. Thank you.
Questions from the commission?
No, but Tim, did you hear the question that Commissioner Gray asked of Melanie about the height?
Yes. Well, Melanie actually, she answered the question appropriately. A couple other things I could add to that, Mr. Gray, is one is that the way the building is actually designed, the height to capture the front of the building and then the slope back allows us the opportunity to capture more light. I think the thing that's important to remember here is that the trees are 110 feet high in this area. We're in a very remote area, but what we're trying to do is really capture that passive solar energy on that, and also create a situation. The northwest or the prevailing southwest winds actually face this building, so the snow loading on the backside is fairly extensive. As you can imagine, I'm a little nervous. There's about 9-10 feet of snow still on the ground up there, but it loads pretty heavily on the backside of this building. So what we're trying to do is make sure that the snow sheds on the back of the building, and in order for us to get that that angle, that pitch on the roof, as well as get the solar exposure, those are the two components that make it up. And the architect here is here today, so he can also address that if you'd like.
Well, how about a question, just what is the pitch on that roof?
Right now,
Well, the way you got proposed.
yeah, I think it's 3 and 12.
3 and 12.
Yeah, and we get a lot of wind here. So actually, Schaefer's Camp, which is I think 11 feet over the existing zoning ordinance, also has a situation where they're trying to shed the roof, and certainly can share some pictures of that, of the loading that takes place in there. So hopefully that answers that question.
Tim, the glass that we saw in the photograph or the
Yeah.
rendering, which way is it facing, northwest?
Southwest.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
it's facing
yeah,
into the sun.
yeah, and it's actually has quite a solar exposure all the way across the backside of North Star, and it's non-reflective glass, so obviously we won't see any reflection from
You
the
were talking
sun.
about the snow loading, and I couldn't envision that on that.
Yeah, no, it comes from the southwest, right up the backside of the mountain, and dumps right over the top of it.
So you're looking right into Squaw Valley, basically.
Well, we're going to leave a few trees. No, I'm just kidding. No, it actually faces towards the Sierra Crest, more towards Castle Peak and
Oh, yeah.
that way. Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of around the corner from Schaefer's Camp. And the question on the private versus public ownership, obviously Schaefer's Camp is private. And the real need that we have at North Star is that the middle of the mountain is extremely crowded because it's the crossroads of a lot of traffic. And what this restaurant will allow us to do is actually, during those peak periods, allow people to spread out on the mountain, and we bring them up on top of the ridge. And from there, you can actually drop into the backside of the mountain, or you can go to Lookout Mountain. So it's going to keep people spread out on the mountain. And provide us with additional seating, which is desperately needed, especially indoor seating. We have a lot of outdoor seating, but this winter we could have used a lot more indoor seating.
Still can.
And we still can, yeah. So without, if there are any other questions?
Okay, well, I have a couple questions, but maybe we'll give the public a
Okay.
chance, somebody from the public.
All right, thank
and
you.
we might call you back up again. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment on this project? Don't everybody stand up at once. Okay, well, Commission, I guess the one area that I was a little bit puzzled over is it looks like there's a comment that it's impervious soil, and so I was visualizing rock with that comment, but also I noticed there's quite a bit of dirt that's going to be imported as well as moved around or something, so maybe kind of explain that.
Yeah, I think it said impervious surface, but maybe I'm mistaken. Is it? Because obviously the roof is impervious, and where the building is.
Oh, that's after
Yeah.
the building is in?
Yeah,
it would be
after the
impervious?
building is would be impervious. We're hoping we don't run into any ledge or any soil up there. We've done quite a few construction projects in this area. Certainly Schaefer's Camp didn't run into any impervious surface.
Okay, so it's talking
Yeah.
about the roof then.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you have 110-foot trees if you have impervious.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, it's, I think it says impervious surface, doesn't it, Melanie? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Then, all the dirt, what is it, leveling the site, or what's the?
Well, the slate kind of falls off on the south, towards the southwest. So we'll have to level off, areas of that, and then we have to bring in, and maybe maybe you could answer that question, or Peter Grove, who's the architect, could answer the question better than I can.
Looks like a 1960.
Sure, I think it might be helpful if we can go back to the exterior elevations to maybe describe that. So if I,
It was there.
let's see here. Well, this kind of helps explain it. We're actually, the only parts of the site that we're flattening out are the very back side of the building and the south side. The grade drops off, and we actually have a crawl space underneath there, which is very close to natural grade. We're actually not bringing in any dirt at all to address any of that. We're just going to be maneuvering some of the soil that's on site to kind of flatten that out underneath the crawl space. So we're not building an actual flat pad underneath this building, pad, i.e. the slab on grade. It is going to be a structured crawl space.
Okay.
So does that help at all? And then the exterior deck itself is an open graded deck to address, I guess, the impervious question too. That's all open grade. And you can see in elevations 1 and actually 4, kind of how natural grade is kind of falling beyond the building
Okay,
to
I
the
guess
west.
maybe this says, maybe I'm misreading this. It says that there'd be 1,800 cubic feet that are imported.
Yeah, we have to bring some soil in. Mostly, there's an access road too that comes around to the east of the site,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of that soil is for that too.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
The road currently goes through here, we're actually coming around the backside, so we surface that section.
Okay. Okay, I think that answers it for me.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
Well, while the architect's up, I'm curious, how do you deal with ADA on a site like this where you're remote? Do you still have to comply? Since people physically can't get there most of the years.
Yeah, the building itself is going to be fully ADA accessible and meet all the California codes, which are actually even more stringent than ADA. We are actually providing an on-site handicap parking spot. The resort will provide access in that vehicle to somebody, whether from the top of the lift or actually down below the mountain, and actually bring them up, park them in that spot, and then we'll have access right from that spot up to finished floor elevation. So that's how it's being provided. And we're working through all that with the building department right now, and all the plan check comments. I think we're pretty much right there with everything.
This is sort of where the last run goes down the backside to Schaefer's, isn't it? Sort of the easy run down?
Yeah, it's,
I'm just trying to remember from
yeah,
having been there.
let me see here, go back here. That ski run that you see Schaefer's Camp, and you see the top of the Tahoe Zephyr lift, that run goes down to the backside. That's the furthest one over. And
Yeah.
then just to the right of that there's a big flat area. Actually, there's a patrol yurt right there now, and so it goes pretty much right where that yurt sits.
That's a nice run for sissies.
No, we look at it, nice run for access.
Is the patrol building, it looks like you're going to build a new one, is that part of this project?
That's
or-
part of the approvals for the S-Pod. So that's already gone through its approval process, yeah.
How will you service this during the winter months?
Snowcat.
Snowcat?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as bringing food and supplies and then employees actually will take the lift up. Or if they don't ski, then we'll bring them up on either a snowmobile or a snowcat.
Okay.
It's, we have on Mountain, we don't operate Schaefer's Camp. That's operated by North Star Mountain Properties. But we do operate, obviously, 2 restaurants on the mountain now. One on top of the mountain and one at mid-mountain. So we're pretty used to, and we actually do all the supplies for Schaefer's Camp, so we'll piggyback on that.
Okay, good.
Keep their costs down.
Thank you.
I just have one question, I guess, is it working? A question on this business with the letter that we got from the Ritz on the 11 employees on the average versus 130. It seems like a big difference there. Can you make any comments on that?
Well, I guess one comment I could make is that, the Ritz obviously has a much different service level, I guess, than we do, as far as the number of employees. Our experience has been on the mountain, we have to run a very lean ship. And there'll be peak times when probably there's 30 employees there. But then there'll be other times when there's probably 5 employees there or 2 employees there. They made some reference to the ski shop, for instance, and that there's 10 employees in 1,700 square feet. Well, the thing they neglected to say is that there's actually a rental shop there and a full-service retail space with clothing and boots and fitting and sunglasses and goggles and all that stuff. The retail space in here would take 1 person, and it's just for accessories. It's just for sunglasses and sun cream. So their expectations are a lot different than ours, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions?
Well, I think what I didn't hear was that the difference in the way the restaurant runs. One's a cafeteria where you just self-serve, and the other's where you're being waited on by a little guy in white gloves. And so I think that's a total different type of, and I think that's the difference between the two, as I see it.
I would agree with that, yes.
I have one more question. Where are the trees you're talking about?
There's 60 trees that actually have to be removed for the building itself. The tree, you can see the tree line comes right through here.
No, I can't. Point it out a little more. That's the tree line?
That's the tree line right now. So there's 60 trees right in here,
Uh-huh.
and then we'll do a fuels break around, I think it's, what is it, 300 feet? 300 feet around the building.
And if I'm reading this right, is it the, where it says project site? Is
Yeah.
it sloping?
It slopes downhill. That ski
Away from the
run,
building?
yeah, right, away from the building.
Like 2-foot increments or something like that?
I think that's a 2-foot contour.
And could you go back to that picture of the elevations?
Sure. Maybe. This one?
No, the one you just passed. Yeah, that long roof that's in number 3, is that what I'm looking at? That's the 3 and 12? Yes.
That's correct. Mhm.
And that's steep enough?
Yes, it is.
That side.
All right.
I assume you don't have any entrances or anything going on the right side of that roof there, because that's gonna be,
No, there's no
that's gonna be a
entrances there.
cornice back there. for-
Right. The only entrance is on the gable end this side and the gable end the other side.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission, and
Well, I have a couple
open it up
things.
for some discussion.
Well, I have a couple questions to kind of kick around here. First of all, the variance,
Yeah. Get the microphone a little bit closer to this.
it sounds like I'm being further away.
Oh, you turned it up, that's why.
Okay. Well, first of all, a couple of things that spring to mind. It seems that the justification for the variance is the fact that the building is so big. Well, anybody can build a builder, anything bigger and say, hey, the reason I want more is because I'm building it bigger. It doesn't really justify the design to start with. You're giving him something that he's basically building in. And I have a hard time with that. The explanation for it, that they need more height so the roof can slope. You know, a steep roof is 12 and 12, not 3 and 12. That's a pretty flat roof really up here. The trees, if it's falling away and you're cutting back 300 feet and it's a 160-foot tree, you're cutting over most of it and the sun's above it for most of the part anyway. And the idea that it's coming up leads, well, you can build a lot of buildings with a flat roof and come up 100% leads. So I find those arguments a little disingenuous for the variance. It seems like they're designing it in order to get the variance. If I make it bigger, I'll have to get the variance. If I make it smaller, I wouldn't need it. So those are the questions I'd like to put out to the rest of the commission, get their feeling on.
Anybody have some thoughts?
Didn't I hear that the Schaefer's, the camp next door, that their building also exceeds the existing height requirement?
That may well be. That's, I think, right in the literature that I read where they talk about granting variances is one of the things you're not supposed to do is use what somebody else has to justify what you've got. I believe that's right in what is it? Help me, Michael.
In the handbook.
The handbook.
Some
The
kind of-
handbook.
some
The
kind of
commissioner's
handbook anyway.
Right.
When staff looked at this proposal, we did look at the Schaefer's Camp project as an example of how this might play out as it was constructed. Mr. Beck was correct that because of this design, the pitch of the roof necessitated the height that you see, and it's based upon the design of this building. Could it be done differently? Yes, it could. One of the advantages staff had is that this same design was constructed last year at Heavenly Valley, and staff has had a chance to go out and inspect it, and it is an appropriate design for the site. Given the remote location, this site really isn't visible from anywhere. Maybe from the peaks of Squaw Valley, 7 to 10 miles away, you might see this, but from any other public location, this site is not visible. That in and of itself is not justification for a variance, but staff concluded this was an appropriate design. Having seen the structure at Heavenly Valley, we thought it was very appropriate and consistent with the design that the Planning Commission approved for the Schaefer's Camp project. And it was on that basis that staff concluded this was appropriate to recommend support of a variance here.
This design was quite popular about 1959 and 60. Probably for the same reasons they're using it now, I don't know. I'm not sure that we have to use Heavenly Valley as a justification, but since we have a Heavenly guy in the back row, I was teasing him a little bit. But I think there is a place you can see it from, but I'm not sure it's important, and that's the landfill. The dump, it might be visible from there, but I understand Mick's concern. You know, you just don't need a lot of tall buildings, but when you have a goal in mind, it makes it more difficult. If you're trying to really capture the sun in the winter when it's necessary to warm people up and reduce your heat costs, it seems a little bit more logical. Most of the time, when people are going to see this, it's going to be just windows. They're not going to see the roof. You're not going to see anything except snow and windows. And so,
Well, I think you can argue all of those points. Mine is simply that the design was set up so that the variance would have to be allowed. And generally speaking, it's supposed to be the other way around, to my way of thinking.
I think there's a chicken and egg argument here.
Right, and I'm saying that the variance thing sits first. The design should go to avoid the variance rather than to design to have it.
And what I hear from you is that if the floor space were smaller, if the building were smaller, the roof would
No,
come down.
no, that's not true. I've designed enough homes. You can make it bigger and flatter and still get as much square footage out of it.
Oh, I see.
I mean, there's other ways to do it. There's lots of buildings out there that don't conform. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're right, just because they got built. And I'm saying that, using the argument that we need to catch the sun, we need to avoid the trees, we need to be leads, they're all good arguments, but they're not necessarily 100% true and valid. You can do all of those things without having a variance that I can't get if I want to build my house, because I want more sunshine in my house.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the, Mickey, at least what I was thinking is that the snow shed is the other factor that they're dealing with here.
Right,
And
if
if
they
they flatten the
want-
roof,
I think that that's a disingenuous argument as well. They've got a 3 and 12 pitch. You get a 12 and 12 pitch to get a lot more snow off. They're coming down. It's a design issue. You don't have to have snow sitting on that roof with a 3 and 12 pitch. You could do something else just as easily.
We've gone through this variance issue
Yeah, that's the
Almost-
issue. It's not the building so much, it's the variance thing, I think.
numerous
Big issue.
times up here.
Right.
In North Star with some of the individual condo units, I remember they wanted to be higher, and other places. And I remember every time we went through this, we had to look at what imposition was it upon the surrounding neighborhood. Did it create a special circumstance? Was it unfair to the neighbors and things like that?
Did it
The
set
reason
precedent?
you make good points, but the reason I don't get too hung up on it this time is its
Nobody sees it.
location.
Nobody sees it.
Also, you know, you look at the gas station, it's $4 gas coming up here and apparently headed higher. I want to do everything I can to support those businesses in the county that are looking to maximize their solar exposure and minimize their energy use. And, you know, for all of those reasons, I tend to go along with this. Otherwise, if we were anywhere else, I would be in your camp. You make good points. I'm just not so sure I want to apply them here.
I was just going back to some of the things that you said before when you were chairing that, you know, are we setting precedent here? Are we giving people the idea that they can get a variance if, well, only 8 people can see me instead of, 100 people can see me, so I get a variance or something like that?
Well, to follow on to that, I think every building up there on the hill hidden by the trees that's between that one camp and this building should probably get a variance. There will probably be about 0 of them.
Yeah, now, next week, next year, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
That's kind of, we're planning in the future, not what we're judging off of the past only, that's all.
That's true, but only one building per 160 acres, right?
Well,
This week.
Mr. Chairman, maybe it's unresolvable at this point. We'll just almost make a motion and
Okay.
everybody can react the way they feel most comfortable. I'll follow staff's recommendation and approve the conditional use permit and variance for the North Star Mountain Lodge, PCPA 20110043, based on the following findings. And as the findings are listed in the agenda for CEQA, for the conditional use permit, and for the variance. I understand that there's a difference of opinion, but I think probably I'm somewhat convinced that the architecture is valid.
And that's subject to these conditions of approval that are attached, right?
And, yes, and the conditions of approval.
Okay, is there,
Vicinity, all those things.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead with the roll call.
Mr. Brentnall,
Aye.
Mr. Rakucci,
Yes?
Mr. Denayo,
Yes.
Mr. Sevison,
Yes.
Mr. Gray,
No.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes? Okay, the motion carries as stated. Thank you. Okay, let me see, let me check the time here.
Do you want any of this paper stuff back? You don't really, okay. All right, I thought maybe if somebody appealed it or whatever, you had to go to the board.
We'll pick it up.
Who's
All right.
to appeal?
Okay, you just reminded me that I was supposed to say that if anybody would like to appeal this project to the Board of Supervisors, you're welcome to do it. It'll cost you $504, and you need to file your appeal in 10 days.
Tim,
You need a record, no?
well, he's supporting it.
No. Yeah, but the letter's called.
Oh, that, yes, oh, I thought we were talking about Tim Bennett.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to go for the next one?
Roll.
Okay, we have Stacy Wydra, and she's going to talk to us about training, temporary training facility up at Sugar Bowl.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Johnson. Let me just get there real quick. Okay. Good morning, Chair Johnson and fellow planning commissioners. The next item on your agenda is a request for a temporary conditional use permit for the Sugar Bowl Academy. Did I do something? There we go. The project site is located within the Sugar Bowl Ski Resort, and it's approximately 200 feet west of the West Bay parking lot and approximately 300 feet north of the Sugar Bowl residential areas. The existing Sugar Bowl Academy currently operates out of a location off of Donner Pass Road. And at this location, there exists their boarding, classrooms, administration, buildings, etc. And they are looking for another location to provide additional classrooms for their students. And back in 2003, the Sugar Bowl Ski Resort was actually approved for a maintenance building facility. And that area of which the project site is proposed was graded out and improved for the maintenance building. However, for some reason, the maintenance building was not pursued. So the Sugar Bowl Academy is pursuing this project site, which is already graded and disturbed, for the location of temporary classrooms. The temporary use permit is requested for 5 classrooms, as shown on this slide. The Sugar Bowl Academy is an 8th through 12th grade college preparatory boarding and day school. And what's unique about this school as well is that part of their curriculum is to ski on the ski hill. So this gets them just a little bit closer to the ski hill where the children can actually ski to the lift as opposed to the shuttles, which currently come from Donner Pass Road down Mount Judah Drive or Sugar Bowl Road to the ski hill. So this just provides a little bit more convenience as it relates to transporting the students back and forth from both of their classrooms, indoor and outdoor. The site is 1 acre of 43-acre site, and the project site is zoned forestry, and the general plan designation is resort and recreation. Because of the zoning forestry, it does not allow for schools or educational type facilities, of which is being proposed today. However, as part of the zoning ordinance, we do have a temporary section which will allow for temporary uses and events for any zone district, subject to the approval of the Planning Commission. However, the maximum of which the site can be occupied is 2 years. Extension of time may be requested after that, but for the initial request, a maximum of 2 years is what can be considered today. However, it has been told to us that the rezone request for this project site to consider a permanent location for these classrooms, it's my understanding, will be filed with the county here pretty soon. So we will actually be able to further explore all of the impacts associated with this site on a more permanent basis. This project did go before the new Donner Summit MAC, the Municipal Advisory Council, and they voted unanimously to support this project on the temporary basis. There are a few issues and concerns and then otherwise created as conditions of approval as it relates to the use of this site. And probably the most important is the snow load. These are portable classrooms that are proposed, and with a portable structure, you worry and you're concerned about snow load buildup. So as a condition of approval and as offered by the applicants, a snow load buildup monitoring and removal plan will be provided to the county for review and approval and then implemented, especially during the winter months. The access to the site is off of the existing paved road, which currently exists today, from the west site parking area, oops, I should go over there, which is serviced and paved for the ski resort. And there is an existing drainage, which drains the parking lot, of which this site on a temporary basis will drain into. It has been determined that there will be no impacts to that existing drainage as a result of this improvement. And then furthermore, due to the site's location, there'll be minimal visual impacts and lighting impacts as it relates to the surroundings and the location of which it's located in. Therefore, the Development Review Committee is requesting that the Planning Commission determine the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA and approve the temporary conditional use permit for the placement of 5 temporary classrooms for the educational facility of Sugar Bowl Academy on the existing improved 1 acre building site. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Questions?
My voice. Sorry.
I'm assuming that the snow removal plan is basically shoveling the roofs.
That we haven't gotten into all the details, but yes, that will be a component of it.
I just have maybe one concern, this issue with the temporary use for 2 years and then a permanent rezone. Will the granting of this temporary use permit in any way prejudice the analysis or the final recommendations on the more permanent solution?
No, the rezone will be reviewed on its own merits.
Even if the building's already there, I know they're portables and they can be removed.
That is correct, no, because the site is already disturbed and it's just a matter of placing the classrooms on it.
Okay, thank you.
I see one area that I didn't notice is, looks like the utilities, the water utilities, there's a utility district. What about the sewer services? How is that handled in this area?
I believe, and I know the applicants are here today, it will hook up to the existing facilities along Lupin Trail.
Along the what trail?
Lupin Trail, I'm sorry, I'm battling a cold here. The road that provides access to the residential areas. It's actually seen better in here. So it's my understanding that there are utility lines that run all along that existing road of which they will step off of.
Go back more. Stacy, there was one that actually showed the trail.
Oh, right there.
There it
And
is.
it's, the road name is trail, however, it's an actual road, that
And
services.
so there's a sewer plant, or what, how's,
No, just, oh, there is a sewer, a sewer plant?
well, maybe,
Oh,
we'll, yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But we can
Just
hold
real
off.
quick,
on
there is, on Lupin Trail, there is a sewer main there,
Sewer.
and that's Donner Summit.
Okay,
Sewer.
Donner Summit PUD, they have a sewer treatment plant there.
okay.
Serves Cisco Grove and.
Okay, that answers my question. Any more? Okay, thank you, Stacy. Okay, now, looks like the project manager is just really chomping at the bit to get up here and explain this to us. You don't have to explain too much if you don't want to, that's fine.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we do just quickly. My name is Bill Hudson. I'm the executive director of the Sugar Bowl Ski Team Foundation. We are a nonprofit 501c3. We're dedicated to the development of the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. That's our mission. We have two programs. The Sugar Bowl Ski Team, 400 kids in that program. We're based right at Sugar Bowl, typical ski team as others in the area, 4-year-olds and up. But then we also have the Sugar Bowl Academy, as Stacy said, a college prep school for 8th through 12th graders. But it's quite a unique opportunity, certainly in the region. These are highly motivated athletes, alpine, Nordic, freeride skiers, and this program enables them to achieve their highest goals in athletics, with kids going on to the U.S. ski team, NCAA skiing, but also at the same time allowing them to pursue an education, get them into the very best schools, colleges in the nation, and succeed there. So that's what we're all about. We've been located for 10 years on Donner Pass Road on Old 40, just at the top of the summit there. And we've had started out very small. We've had slow but steady growth. And right now, that site really is totally limiting to us as far as moving forward. The size of that site, for one thing, but I guess most importantly, we're leasing that site. We own the buildings, but we lease the site from Union Pacific Railroad. And the terms of that lease are very prohibitive, and we aren't able to do any more capital projects on there that make any sense. So that's why we find ourselves here before you today, and we're hopeful that we can get this temporary use permit and that we can move forward in the next couple years and continue to progress and then move into a transition to a permanent site.
Will the permanent site be dorms and the full?
Yes, we'd probably, it would probably be a transition. We're going to use the current site that we're on right now for dorms still, and this will just be classrooms. And the permanent site, depending on funding and timing, may be something similar. So.
But at this location is what you're thinking?
Or very near there. Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to say, as far as the snow removal, we will have a mitigation plan. We would be utilizing Sugar Bowl Corporation, their services and employees, so it'd be 24-hour. And as you said, snow removal, shoveling of the roofs would be the basic, most important element of that plan.
School goes year-round, or is it standard?
It's standard, beginning of September through middle of June.
Any chance those units could be used in the summertime as well?
There's a possibility that they could be used through us or possibly Sugar Bowl Corporation for conference use or camps, classes, things like that. We do have our head of school here, Tracy Keller, so any specific questions about that?
Anybody else? Okay. Well, it sounds like we've run out of questions, so thank you. Appreciate your presentation to us.
All right, thanks.
And anybody from the public that would like to make a comment?
His mother and I were both running for supervisor at the same time, and she won.
Chairman Johnson, thank you. Board. Commission members. My name is Chris Parker. I sit on the Donner Summit MAC. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the MAC. I'm speaking in terms of, or on behalf of Sugar Bowl Corporation. We fully support the Ski Team Foundation relocating their facilities into Sugar Bowl. Our board of directors has accommodated that through their approval of the temporary use and the pursuing the permanent location, which is actually right now slightly north of this particular site toward the railroad. Couple questions just for clarification. The portable classrooms probably will not meet Placer County snow load requirements for the ground loading. In order to mitigate that, there'll be a snow removal plan for the roofs. Sewer, Donner Summit Public Utility District. Sewer connections have been pre-purchased by, excuse me, the Academy. And just in terms of the existing use, we did earmark that area for a maintenance site. As it turns out, because of the growth of the residential areas within Sugar Bowl, we felt that was an inappropriate use for that area. So we've cleared it, but we haven't pursued building the maintenance building. Any other questions?
Yeah,
I'm
just
available.
one. How are the residents of the residential area surrounding this with this plan, or have you polled them?
We have polled them, and we're actually having ongoing design meetings with them. Actually, one of the reasons why the permanent facility is a little bit more north is because they would have a larger scale, and that we would want to mitigate any concerns of the existing residential by pushing that scale to the north.
I guess just so I understand, you're anticipating at some point this will be a permanent facility, and the board of directors for the ski hill are supporting that concept into the future so that you have some place to go, that this is truly not temporary but interim. This
is interim. It's a step. Getting Bill and Tracy's school off of an inhospitable site that actually you walk in the front door of their academy and you're in Placer County, or Nevada County, you go out the back door and you're in Placer County. It's a really difficult site. It's on a 30-day lease. And so for them to sink money into that, improving the site, it's just not tenable. So having a ski and ski out academy would be quite a great thing, and we recognize that.
How did I should have asked Billy, but how did the academy, when it started, how fast has it grown, I guess? Is it growing, still growing, and is it popular? And
It's, we were very small at the beginning 10 years ago. You know, it was few parents were actual parents, were dorm parents. Now we have staff doing that. There was, started out with 4 or 6 people. Now this year when we had our full winter term number of students, we were at about 50. The max at this site would be 55, and then in the future, when we're looking for a full campus, permanent campus, the max would be 75. We don't, for what we do, we don't want to grow any bigger than that. The mountain can't handle more than that. We can't provide those individual services with more kids than that. But yeah, we've been growing steady, good application interest at this point. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, then I'll bring it back to the commission. What's your pleasure, folks?
Well, this is
If somebody,
his
if it's,
backyard.
what's that?
This isn't his backyard. Does he want to?
Yeah, if we're ready to make a motion,
Make a
then
motion, yeah.
we might as well do it.
Dot all the i's and t's, but I'll make a motion to accept as proposed and with all the conditions applicable.
Second?
What was the motion? I couldn't hear you.
Page 6 of your recommendation.
Just adopt the staff's recommendation?
As far as I can
For a
tell.
temporary conditional use permit?
And all the findings.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay, well, with that, is there any more discussion? Then I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Maps and stuff back?
Let me see, I need to mention that if anybody desires to appeal this decision to the Board of Supervisors, you have 10 days to submit it to the Planning Department, as well as it'll cost $504. Okay, how we doing? We gonna take a break or roll on?
Let's take a
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. What we have here is, actually, we're gonna have two similar proposals here. And so I guess we'll go with the first one, which is Trekkie River Raft Company. And Stacy is going to present this again.
Actually, because both the rafting companies are virtually identical, I'm going to just do a dual presentation of both of them.
And then you
So
can take
two-
a separate action.
Yeah.
Okay.
on
Yeah,
each of
we
them.
will separate it out.
Hearing and then take separate action.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll accept that.
Okay, thank you.
Stacy just didn't want to say it all twice.
Yeah, I will just repeat myself. Okay. Hello again. The next two items on your agenda are for conditional use permits and the renewal of existing rafting licenses for the Tahoe Mountain Air Sports and the Tahoe Sierra Recreation, also known as the Trekkie River Raft Company, and that's how throughout this presentation they will be presented as. The applicants are here today.
The same thing, I guess.
Oh.
Oh, I see, the two different rafting, the same thing, yeah.
We're taking them together.
Sorry.
I get that.
The applicants are here today requesting the renewal of their existing rafting licenses, which are also known as special business licenses, and their conditional use permits for the continuation of their outdoor recreation concessions in order to continue to operate the existing commercial river raft rentals businesses that they provide along the Trekkie River. The extent of this request for this permit is for another 3 years, which is an allowed time period of the rafting ordinance. The project sites are located within the commercial and recreation general plan designations and have multiple zonings because they are located at areas within Tahoe City where you put in to the river, and then areas towards the end where you take out at River Ranch. And I will go over those into more details. So the first river operator that I will describe is the Mountain Air Sports, and you will see as in both of them, both rafting companies begin, or their point of ingress is in Tahoe City, just down from the Fanny Bridge. And this is where people sign up, get their life jackets, the rafts are rented, on-site parking, etc. In some cases, there are shuttles, because when you get down to the end, which is for Mountain Air Sports, is the Bell's Landing, which is just right above the pond of the River Ranch. They then have to shuttle these folks back up to where their vehicles are. So here's an aerial of the Mountain Air Sports, and basically folks travel along the Trekkie River, which is roughly just less than a 4-mile rafting trip. And they, again, put in at Tahoe City and take out near Alpine Meadows at the River Ranch. The next company is the Trekkie River Raft Company, and they too put in at the same location as the Mountain Air Sports and in Tahoe City. And both of these operations pretty much are side by side. And then the Trekkie River Rafting Company just has a couple more off-site parking locations of where they shuttle their vehicles to of the patrons that have rented rafts. So, and then here is the aerial of these locations. And the rafting ordinance allows for a number of different things, and or requires a number of different things. One is being the conditional use permit. A maximum of 3 years is what the permit can be allowed for, so we will be back in 3 years should the rafting companies continue. Each company is allowed 100 rafts at any one time on the river. So there's a total of 200 rafts that are commercial rafts. This is not counting the private rafter who chooses to launch on his own. These are just those folks that come to these two rafting companies and purchase a raft to float down the river. These rafts are tagged, and again, they have tags 1 through 100, and those rafts can be rotated. So you might see tag number 3 twice on the river. Rafts cannot be rented out before 9 a.m. and cannot be rented out after 3:30 p.m. However, they have to stay open until the last rafter ends at River Ranch to bring them back up. And so that's sort of the transportation of which I've already spoke of. And there's a number of different things as it relates to actual, their impacts to the river. So signage, traffic and litter maintenance, they do provide bathrooms, and then a river monitor. And the river monitor is part of that memo that's in front of you. We have just slightly changed the wording to allow for the applicants to work with environmental health on establishing all of those specifics of the river monitor. The river monitor is really intended to ensure that the applicants are complying with the rafting ordinance and their conditions of approval. So that the condition has been modified to basically allow for the environmental health to work with the applicants on who that river monitor should be. So additionally, staff is recommending that condition number 21 of your packet, which requires a pedestrian path, for it to be removed from the recommended conditions of approval. The reason for this is that it's a little bit of redundancy as it relates to condition number 24. Condition number 24 requires a traffic management plan. And so the pedestrian path that's required in condition number 21 will be incorporated into condition number 24 through that traffic management plan. So just a little bit of a redundancy there. So we would recommend that that condition be striked. So in addition to the rafting ordinance requirements, there's also the river water quality that's of concern to many, including the county. And so as a result, and over time, these continuous monitoring plans, the fair share towards cleanup and habitat restoration, these will just continue. And also the applicants will have to continue to comply with the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board as it relates to the protection of the water, the total maximum daily loads, and I could go on and on. So the applicants are very active with Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board as it relates to obtaining their permits that are required for this river rafting activity. There is a condition of approval within your report that also requires that they provide evidence to the county that they've received all their permits from Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board. In years past, we have done river monitor reports, and there has been a decrease in the users over time. Perhaps that's mainly due to the unique water situation we've had. So the operations of the rafting have stayed steady, but just decreased just slightly. This project was presented to the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council, and they unanimously voted to approve the 3-year renewal of these conditional use permits and rafting licenses. Additionally, there was a mitigated negative declaration prepared for this project to identify any potential impacts and to ensure that they were reduced to an insignificant level. And that is also attached to your staff report, should you have any questions on that. So now, the tricky part. We have 2 recommendations. So one would be, both of them, we're asking that you adopt the mitigated negative declaration that was prepared for the project individually, and to approve the conditional use permits and rafting licenses for each individual company. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
I have one question. In the past, has there been any issues or problems, complaints, police reports, whatever, on the use of the river rafting there?
Yes, all of the above.
I guess have they been taken care of then?
Yeah, some of the things that I didn't go into was the newly banned for no drinking of alcohol during the 4th of July has greatly reduced the amount of law enforcement required out there. With regards to, has been some concerns noted over every year that these permits are renewed of the water quality impacts and just residents speaking concerns that make sure that the erosion control and the water quality is maintained. And
Have our requirements or these different approvals overseen, have they been strengthened to kind of address some of those? I mean, you've addressed the alcohol, but some of these other issues, have the monitoring been strengthened to what's required of the monitoring over the years or whatever?
it is my understanding between the Department of Environmental Health, who is here today, together with the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board, that each year either additional conditions are imposed. I know with the River Monitor, they will have to report to environmental health, at least monthly on what that River Monitor is reporting. So, are there certain areas that are eroding maybe more quickly than other areas? And then those items will be addressed accordingly. So,
Mr. Chair, as further clarification, it should be noted that there have been no issues with the operators. The users of the rafts have caused some problems, and the operators have been very prompt to respond to the county's direction to address issues. As Stacy noted, there has been an issue in the past regarding the use of alcohol, which goes for the private rafts as well as those that are operated by these businesses. And with the ban on holiday weekends of the use of alcohol, the impact to the Sheriff's Department has been greatly reduced. But I want to make it very clear that the applicants have been extremely responsive to county staff when issues are brought to their attention, and they remediate the issues very quickly and correctly and are responsive to staff's direction.
Okay, thank you.
In years past, I recall one of the issues was what was it, 3 years ago we went through this? Apparently there's a lot of land down the river that's owned privately, and some of those owners were present and complaining about trespassing and folk coming onto their land and causing mischief. Has a lot of that, and I realize some of that was on the private rafters, and that's beyond our control, but has that issue gone away, or have you heard anything about that?
not during this round. Meaning when, the public notices went out. I do know that the applicants have tried to put up signs of no trespassing, but they can't trespass on someone's private property to put up signs. So, but they do go through an extensive training information when the rafters are getting on the rafts.
Okay, so that hasn't been an issue that you're aware of? Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
I guess the question of the private users comes up in terms of conflicts and how they might be managed or are being managed.
Well, it's my understanding that we will work with the rafting companies to get a better understanding of where are the issues arising, and then I believe then we would bring in law enforcement, because if it's not if it's not the rafters, and those rafts are identified very distinguishedly between private and public, or I should say, private rafting companies, because again, they all have a tag, they have their names painted on the side of them. They're very evident of who they are, and then the folks that just put in the river on their own are also distinguished. So I believe the law enforcement would be able to figure it out.
Okay. I was a little confused. I remember a few years back we talked about the Lahontan Water Quality Control Board and how it appeared that they were delegating more and more responsibility to the county. You were talking about getting permits from Lahontan, but has the county picked up that responsibility yet, or still in process?
No, there's certain things that the county does do through Lahontan, but then there's other special permits that the actual private rafting companies have to obtain from them.
Okay.
So it's a joint effort.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it should be directed towards you or environmental health, but could you explain a little bit more the function of the monitor?
Oh, I'll pass it over. Good morning still. Jill Paul, Environmental Health Director. Pleasure to see you this afternoon or this morning, whichever it is. The Rafting River Monitor has had a slightly historical change, but from the use of the river tending to be more public now. What we are doing is counting. So typically, I think it actually started with the planning department with the original conditions that we'd count to make sure the 100 and the 200 limits have been met. And actually, the rafting companies have come up with a great idea. We're no longer using the tags. They've actually painted on top of the rafts themselves. So you can't switch the tags around. So that's very good. We're checking to make sure the litter is picked up. We're making sure that there's porta potties available and that they're upright. Yeah, we are responding to complaints, and that's one of the things in the condition that I put there, that if we do receive a complaint in, I figure that would be from the private property owners. We'll work with the rafting companies and private property owners and hopefully achieve signage on their property so that they won't have the ingress, egress, or people on their property. That's effective, but again, they have to agree to that for the rafting companies to put those there. And the Forest Service doesn't allow it at all. So we're just, making sure that the counts are there, that we try to give some overall recommendations. The recommendations have been the same year after year after year. They're difficult to do much of anything else, and we've just seen great progress with the two firms actually monitoring themselves already. So that's where we're looking to maybe shift this over to a somewhat self-monitoring with less oversight by the county.
So does the monitor check on private rafters as well as the
They
commercial
keep
business?
counts of the private rafters too, so they'll go out and track on that. And if they see something, they'll call law enforcement if they need to come in. We've also had some illegal vendors down there that we've chased out at times too. So.
And how often does the monitor show up?
We had the monitor. This is why I'd like to change this. We had them 5 days a week, so they were doing something, counting, riding up and down the bike trail. Cleaning up some things themselves if they had to, notifying the companies that there's an issue they need to take care of. I think with just where we're going with government nowadays, the less we could get out of that business, and the success that we've seen them take care of their own business warrants the change in the river monitor.
How long does that season usually last for this person?
Well,
90 days or less?
Well,
60 days or less, unfortunately?
last year and this year, it looks like we've got some changes. Usually they're starting by Memorial Day and ending right after Labor Day. But last year they got a very short season with very little water even when they were there. This year I'm hearing from them they won't be able to put in until at least July 11th right now because of the water master. They control the water releases.
So the monitor wouldn't be there that often really compared to a regular county employee. It's pretty limited still.
Yes, and essentially they're doing it. So
Pardon?
they're doing the work that needs to be done. So we can provide random checks, but I think really the complaint bases, the complaints have gone way down as far as the things, the river monitor checks. We still do have the law enforcement complaints, but again, we've seen good success with the ban going in over the holiday weekends.
So would the commercial rafters, if they were monitoring themselves, be likely to come up to a private citizen rafting and say, hey, don't dump the garbage there, pick it up and put it away?
I believe they do that already because they don't want to be stuck with it. So if they actually see something occur.
They don't want to be blamed.
Yeah, they don't want to be blamed. So they're, and a good chunk of it, people get a cheap little raft and they go on the river and they leave it. So, a lot of it is that.
So they do confront the citizen if they see them.
If they see it,
and they would
yeah.
inform law
Yeah.
enforcement. If so.
And they're up and down the river.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I believe they've made some calls to law enforcement if it's necessary because it hurt their business. So.
I see you mentioned the Forest Service doesn't allow it at all.
The signage, yeah.
The signage on National Forest land.
Yep.
Okay. Do they have? Does the Forest Service have similar rules that the county does?
As far as
The use of the river. at the entry point or whatever?
It's, yeah, I'm not sure that they do. All I know with preparing the ban, there's like a whole group of agencies that covered the river and the shoreline, and so I think the Forest Service is just on the land itself, and they haven't really been involved at all for the last 5 years.
That's basically the county, it sounds like, is doing the administration of this process.
Mhm.
It'd be either the sheriff or
Yeah.
environmental health.
Yeah, and the companies do a good job with the people they have, saying just stay off the left side of the river, which takes care of a lot of the privates and a lot of the Forest Service land. So, all right, thank you.
Who makes the decision when the river is too high?
The
Does
water.
county do that?
The water master makes the decision when the water goes and when they can get on the water, and
No, I understand he makes the decision to let it out, but I'm just saying, someone's got to tell somebody that it's just too high and you can't raft. I mean, we've been through that before where you can't get the rafters under some of the bridges. And so you have to stop the rafting when it gets too high.
well, they've relayed to me that it is the water master right now that's telling them they won't get out until July 11th at the earliest.
Yeah, I mean, you got two elements. It's certainly easier to stop the concessions from rafting when it's too high, but it's a little more difficult to keep the private rafters off of the river when it's dangerous. And I'm not sure, do we sign the raft in on the 64
Nope.
acres, or we don't do that? No. Well, it's kind of too bad in a way, because I'd hate to see someone get hurt, and then everybody that gives the whole industry a bad name. It's too bad there isn't some way that maybe the sheriff could go post a sign and say, the river unsafe for rafting or something. And I know we don't want to get more involved than we are, but I'm sure we're going to get a black eye if someone goes rafting and gets hurt, and it's going to hurt the whole industry from that standpoint, and I'd hate to see that happen.
That's a good point. I think it's something we can check into for.
I guess
for
the only
future.
reason I'm bringing this up, because I think there's a likelihood that we might face that this year.
Yeah,
There's
well, and this
still a lot of
weekend.
runoff.
Yeah, and this weekend, there's going to be people wanting to come up and not realizing it's not the typical season this year.
I think I could answer that for you, but that's probably something we should ask the Forest Service.
Yes.
Well, I have one question. I don't know if it would be, Jill, I don't know if it'd be you, or if I should direct it to planning. On the trail that goes along there, is that the county's trail, or is that forestry, or Caltrans? Who controls that? Because I know there's places where you come across where you could put signage that maybe it's not the best location, but at least people from the river would see it.
As I understand it, majority of it is owned by Forest Service. However, it's managed by the Tahoe City Public Utility District. The actual bike path itself is cleaned and swept by the Tahoe City PD.
But it's the forestry has the ultimate on signage then.
You got it, correct.
Okay, well, that answers that.
There's an easement for a sewer line under the bike trail. Goes to Trekkie.
Well, I have a question. If it's Forestry Service property and they don't want a sign, well, there wouldn't be a sign there normally, because can't you trespass on Forest Service property? Isn't that our property? So why would they have a no trespass sign there anyway?
Where it goes on to private.
Well, if it was on private, they could have it on there, but I don't think you'd put a no trespassing sign on forestry property is all I was thinking. It'd be hard to.
That's correct. Okay, let me see, we have two rafting companies, and so I guess you guys could flip a coin if you'd like to come forward and talk to the microphone. Or you can come up together, I guess.
Yeah, we do. Hi, I'm Richard Corsier, one of the family members for Tahoe's Mountaineer Sports Rafting.
And I'm Aaron Rudnick, Trekkie River Raft Company.
Okay, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I do actually. One quick question was, when we started this whole process with the permits, we had about 95% of all the business on the river. And that's why all these ordinances were in, for us to do the fair share of river cleanup and things like that. These river monitor reports in the last 12 years, we've noticed a big problem is our business is now combined, we're in the low to mid 40s. The public now is like 60% of the people on that river. And it's because it's so easy in town. Every gas station are selling these little cheap, they're not even rafts, they're pooled floats. They're selling these, the gas stations. Save Mart, I guess, is applying now for outdoor sales for the rafts. The liquor store is selling the rafts. The sporting shops, the bike shops, everyone, they have no conditions. They don't have to help clean up the river. They have no time limits. They don't need any parking, no busing. We have our private property. It's not Forest Service land where we get in on the river. That's our own private property, private docks. These people have no place to get in except for the 64 acres, and only some of them actually use that. The rest are just going down the banks in every direction. So it is becoming such a full-time job for us to clean this river up. I just want everyone to know that we're doing it. It's just hard on us right now. It is a lot of work out there. The season, yes, used to always be 120 days. I don't know what the watermaster's doing anymore. It used to go Memorial Day till Labor Day. Last year, it was about 43 days. We missed Memorial Day, 4th of July, and we missed Labor Day. That was it. I've talked to him already. When they said the earliest would be July 11th, what he said is the lake's going to peak July 11th, and they usually start opening the river a week to 10 days later. It's going to be late July before we get started this season. This season, we're probably going to be in the 30-day range for our season. The public will be out there because those little floats, they're either not aware of it, they don't care, or they're so small. Our big commercial rafts, we need water in the river to get over the rocks. So we just, for safety reasons, we shut down ourselves. The county doesn't tell us or anything. We just stop doing it because it's just not safe. It's just not right to be out there. But the public will be out there, and a lot of times we've been closed in the middle of the season. The water master will jack up the water or lower it. The public's still out there, and both raft companies are still actually sending employees down, cleaning up after the public until a week or 10 days later when we can finally get open again. Well, one thing is to keep our employees busy so we don't lose them.
What would you suggest as a solution to this public-private partnership thing? How do we keep?
Is there any control? Yeah, is there any control over how they can sell those things, or outdoor sales? I know one of the gas stations has been blowing out his wall. He's making his huge raft display area big. I mean,
well, I agree with. I see it every day, and so I'm not sure what the answer is. But
we don't have it either.
The problem.
I guess we can't ban public rafting, can we?
No, it's the public's river. What I want to get back to is the idea that you guys are basically picking up somebody else's garbage, and I find garbage to be one of the main problems with the river. And so the idea that we're trying to split the river monitor a little bit more on you guys than the county has done before, I find that a little bit unfair, perhaps, on you guys, because it looks like you're, not responsible for a lot of what's happening, and yet you're still having to take care of it. And so I have some reservation about trying to limit the county's participation with the monitor.
We've been talking, we're working with environmental health on this.
Agree.
So
I'm
we're
thinking,
okay with.
Are you, though?
Yes.
Because it's going to be probably even worse, as you're saying. You're going to have to pick up more from other people.
We're picking
to
it
try and
up
keep
all.
up.
We're picking. We can't. There's no way to do a fair share, and it's good for us too because we're trying to provide a service for our customers. And the only way to do that is this pristine, clean mountain river.
Well, if you're okay with it, fine.
Well,
And as a point
we
of
have to.
clarification, county staff does not participate in the cleanup. We see a problem and we go to the vendors and say.
Right, but they're out there telling other people what to do and what not to do. And if they're out there telling them not to do it, these guys don't have to do so much work.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to express?
I have a question. Yeah, the alcohol. That was the best thing that we ever did was the ban on alcohol. I think a lot of the privates especially, and a lot of the kids going down that river, they don't care about the rafting. They're looking for a place to where they can drink and not be bothered. And that's what they're doing. If any of those kids were out drinking anywhere else in town or at a public beach or in a business, they'd be arrested in a second. On the river, they're sort of ignored. And before the ban, the 4th of July weekend was horrible. It was bad. We would have to pick up 6 pickup trucks worth of trash out of that river that one day. We would be on the river till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night trying to get it. The minute that ban happened, we were done with the river at 5:30. Everybody was off it and home. And, well, Yeah, and then we were off the river, and instead of 6 pickup trucks, we had a half a pickup truck. That was it. So there's a lot of fighting. There's something about that drinking during the middle of the day in the sun. A couple hours later, if we could ever ban alcohol in the river all summer, I don't know if you can do that in places. I think that would solve a lot of problems. But I don't. That sounds like that's big. But that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood this river monitor thing. You said that your season this year may start late, July 11th, maybe a few days thereafter. Your monitor's not out there in June, for example.
Right, no.
Is he or she?
No.
Starts when you start?
Yes.
So probably on the first day you had that first pickup load full.
Yeah, it's going to be. We'll have a job to clean up because the public's going to be out there starting to use it this weekend because they don't know if it's too low to raft. They'll be out there, and then when we actually start up our business, we're going to spend a lot of time cleaning that river.
Okay.
But we'll do it. Right.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah. Any other questions? Or?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public that'd like to make a comment? Oh, okay. Step right up. I saw a hand go up. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, too.
My name is Bonnie Lofstead, and my husband and I live on the river. I have some pictures. Sorry. My husband and I have owned a piece of property on the Trekkie River since 2001. We come to Tahoe to soak in the surroundings and the beauty, as well as partake in the many activities in the area. In short, last year, after visiting the local Tahoe City Planning Department to inquire how to address what we thought would be a violation of the use of residential land, we sent a letter and pictures to the Code Enforcement Department. We have not received any response from this department to date. We did receive a notice for this hearing 4 days ago via U.S. mail. We called Stacy, who said that our letter to enforcement was never forwarded to her to include in her report, which I guess is today, to the commission. She reported later the same day that a prior planning department and commission did approve one of the rafting companies to place 4 trailers and store equipment on a single-family home parcel on the property. This created and is, an eyesore from the opposite side of the river, from River Ranch. So we're on the other side of the river, the far side of the river. Our daily view contains the contents of the physical assets of this rafting company's business, and that's why we're present today. We are really confused as to the limits and the conditions previously granted to the use permit for one particular piece of property. The property we are questioning, and we would like to see additional conditions set forth, is tax map key 095-050-051. It's located on River Road, that's where the driveway is, across from River Ranch and our home. We're not in opposition to the rafting operations on the Trekkie River at all. In fact, we're in support of the seasonal activity and the rafters coming down the Trekkie River. We find it as an attraction to our property. We are also small business owners and understand the struggles and hardships of owning a small business. We especially have no negative comments towards the company that operates in Tahoe City near River Grill. And we do not really know the names of the 2 companies other than Yellow Paddle and Orange Paddle. We have a front row seat to the rafting operations every day, all summer long. We really don't have a problem with the public rafters at all. They don't come up on our property. They may litter on the river, but they don't litter in our yard or in front. They get out on the other side of the river where the rafting companies are, and they never come on our side. The rafting company's employees often run through our property and hence crush our landscaping. These are always young men, always different every year, and they're obviously not all informed as how to use the trails along the river. So they just hop up, run across the grass, over the hill, into the bushes. We do pick up rubbish daily. They will snorkel and throw it on the shore, and then sometimes it's left all night long and into the next morning. We pick it up every day, and we put it away. I understand it's not all from their rafting customers, that it comes from the public as well. I understand that. But if it's their job to pick it up, they shouldn't leave it there. We understand that there are two companies on this permit. The company that operates out of Tahoe City is always considerate. In fact, the owner will return our calls. The company that operates out of the River Ranch deck, which is the company we're concerned with, the one with the tax map key with the pictures of all the buses and cars, has not in the past 3 years been responsive to the garbage left on the beach or their employees coming through our property. Additionally, this same company that is on the River Ranch deck is the company that we have to live with all summer long. They have a housing situation for their young men, and they stay there all summer long in the trailers. And those trailers, as you can see from the pictures from our house, are a year-long billboard of rubbish from the other side of the river. And maybe most of you have never been to the other side of the river, but the hill that they're on is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous hill. So we look up to this really beautiful, fabulous, spectacular hill. But right in front of us is a billboard of buses, cars, trailers, trucks, and storage containers. We would like the planning department to offer us to an understanding as how this particular tax map key was rezoned and why. We also have a few small suggestions. We would hope that the rafting companies would spend a little bit, more time with their employees and have their employees collect the garbage, removing it promptly from the Bell's Pond landing area, which is the pool, along the shoreline. And like I said, it's an eyesore from the restaurant point of view. They'll get up and they'll leave before the sun sets, and they leave the rubbish there. And then we all have to look at it in the morning. Additionally, it would be nice, and all those pictures were taken in the last week. It would be nice if some additional landscaping were maybe put in. You can see that the roots from our side of the river, which you can't see unless you go to River Ranch or our side of the river, they're just raw. There might need some new landscaping or something to support that hillside. And we hope that they would come up with a policy to train employees at the beginning of the season to be respectful of the landowners on the river. We would plead with you to assist the one tax map key owner that we're addressing today for a relocation, removal, and or a minimum plant trees and hedges to obscure or hide the unsightly storage equipment and trailers that we're looking at. When we bought, they weren't there. So 10 years ago, it wasn't the view that we have now. The permit in question, the permit you're going to probably approve today is the reason why we're here today. So if they weren't in business, they probably wouldn't have all those vehicles and machinery and everything up there. And so I do think that they do go hand in hand. And lastly, if we could have a 1-month notification to when the permit or anything comes up, specifically pertaining to the tax map key up there. 4 days in advance is really hard to be able to, get off from work in order to be here to make a presentation if we do have a question or a comment. Have any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned some of the cleaning crew or some people that were cleaning. How do you know they're employees of that one particular company? Or do you know that they're employees of that one particular company?
Because when they leave the rubbish on the shoreline, I called the companies, and they split the summer in half, or at least this is what they each told me. We split the summer in half. One half of the summer, one company picks up the rubbish. And so she said to me, well, you have to call the other company because they left the rubbish there. But then later on in the summer, the other company would do it. It's not our responsibility to pick up the garbage because it's the other company's responsibility. That was the comment they gave to me.
Okay, so the people, though, tromping through your landscaping and doing...
They're employees, yes. I know they're employees. They come in the boat, in their boats.
Okay.
And then they park the boat, kind of on that little beach, and then hop up and run all over the...
Okay, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments from the public? Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair, if I might address some of the issues raised by the speaker. It's a interesting situation here. The issues that she raised are associated with a different and separate permit. The issues that she raised, the trailers that she talked about, the area that she was referencing are associated with Conditional Use Permit 2540, which was approved by the Planning Commission back in 2002. And so I would have to defer to County Council here. There may be an indirect connection because the parties are the same with this current application, but the issues that she has raised are associated with a different and a separate application than the river rafting, which is today's issue before you. Scott, I'll defer to any issues or any thoughts you may have.
No, I would agree with what Michael says. In 2000, I don't know if Jerry, you might have been on the commission, Larry, you might remember this. There was a request to put temporary trailers down on that site as a result of one of the operators' need to have temporary seasonal housing for employees, and so they came forward with a conditional use permit for temporary housing for those employees, and in 2002 it converted into a permanent housing situation on that same site. So for about 10 years, the conditions and use of that property have been governed by that permit. So if there are problems with that permit, they need to be resolved through that permit process. Today, these are the rafting licenses, and the only connection I think probably is something you could address here had to do with the trash issue here, where if they're not properly picking up the trash, which is required under the rafting license conditions, that's something I think you could address here. But in terms of them not properly utilizing the site by the employees for the housing, I think we'd need to go through some process with that permit to rectify that situation.
Is this housing site, who owns it? Is it the utility district that owns it?
No, I believe that's privately owned.
Privately owned?
And do you recall how it became from temporary to permanent?
I came back to the Planning Commission by request of the property owner.
And do you know if the permit for permanent housing includes all these trailers and things?
There's a limit of 4 units, is my recollection. Isn't that what it is? 10. No, I think it was reduced from 10 to 4. Okay. So it was originally 10 and it was reduced to 4 when it came back to the commission.
And so that's 4 living trailer or mobile homes, whatever you want to call them?
Correct.
No storage trailers, not other stuff?
Well, I don't know what's associated with that, but at least the permit was for, I think, 10 trailers actually is what it was considered to be for at the time. And again, that was a permit that was approved in 2002. Now, Stacy indicates to me maybe there was some complaints made to code enforcement, but at this point, at least as far as the conditions of this previous permit are, have to resolve any code enforcement requirements through that permit.
Did that permit have any requirements for vegetation or fencing or screening?
It does not appear that it did. So in terms of those issues, those are really the sorts of things that ultimately property owners need to work out between themselves if there's a conflict between, their use. Because all we can do is enforce the conditions which were approved almost 10 years ago.
And that's indefinite, that,
Correct. It was a permanent conditional use permit that was exercised.
okay.
Plus, they abandoned the use. If they abandoned the use, obviously, then they would need to come in and re-permit.
Well, maybe if nothing else, Stacy could just ask for their help in dealing with this issue. Maybe they'll voluntarily try to improve it some. Instead of having white vans, they could paint them camo.
And again, the trash issue sounds like something that should be resolved by the rafting licensees here, because they are required to obviously remove the trash from the river.
The first time we went through this, and we came up with the river monitor idea and so forth, the individuals who own private property along that river were hanging off the rafters waiting to speak. The fact that we have the one aggrieved party, I think, is testament to their efforts. The rafting companies have heard what they had to say, and I hope would be responsive to it. But I take that as somewhat good news. They're doing their job. A little more emphasis at the other end, I think you'll have it said.
Okay.
Okay, where are we at, commissioners?
Any more public comment? I don't know.
Oh, I guess, there's no more public comment, I asked already.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Stacy, what was the condition of approval you said was duplicative? 30?
21,
Condition number
24.
21.
And then we have this
And
substitute.
modify condition number 30.
Okay.
I would ask for two motions, a separate motion for each permit.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I guess if you're ready.
Yeah.
I'd like to follow staff's recommendation, and I guess I better find out which permit I'm talking to first, and that's Trekkie River Rafting Company, PRFT 20110055, and a negative declaration. And the, let me get the right page here and say the right thing. Following staff's recommendation, adopt the California Environmental Quality Act findings that find that all environmental impacts associated with the project known as Trekkie River Raft Company rafting license were adequately addressed in the negative declaration, and all the following verbiage there, along with the conditions of the CEQA and the conditional use permit with the conditions as shown in the agenda, and noting the change of 21 to 30 or however.
21, substitute 30.
Yeah, 21 becomes 30 or whatever, however you do that. Those words are substituted anyway for 21.
Right, strike condition 21 and substitute in environmental health, substitute in condition 30.
Okay,
Is that it?
that's the motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, well, any further comments?
Just that the owners of the companies might take into consideration the previous speaker's concerns, and perhaps you can work it out there a little bit better.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Now we need to do a separate motion for,
Can I just simply say, I'd like to make the same motion I made with the exception of the title and call it Conditional Use Permit Rafting License Tahoe Mountain Air Sports this time, incorporated in PRFT 20110054, with all the same conditions and the changing of condition 21 to the wording of condition 30.
Strike 21, substitute 30. I'll
Okay.
second it, same second.
Okay, and I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Okay,
you.
on both these permits, anybody that wishes to appeal the decisions that were made today to the Board of Supervisors, you have 10 days to submit your appeal to the Planning Department, and the appeal will cost $504 for each permit. So with that, I think we're, for the good of the order, unless there's something, that's the end of our meeting. Thank you, folks.